It's
limited to 500 megs a day. And we did.
hopefully, there we go. Alrighty, so we've tried to share information with parents through the district as a whole, through our parent meetings, and then our reopening plan, of course, and summary document. We also have a frequently asked questions document that will be helpful and is constantly being added to as people ask good questions and we have answers for you. So we're here tonight so that I can tell you a little bit more about Peterborough Street and introduce you to some of the key players who are going to be with us. So Megan Ryan is our school nurse. Meg, can you give us a wave so everybody knows who you are? Thank you. And our Director of Transportation is Cindy Clark. Some of you probably know Cindy already. Thank you. And then our Director of Instructional Support Services is here supporting this evening too, and that is Mrs. Karen Henner, who we're excited to have with us. So thank you, ladies. Okay, so I'm gonna just dive right into the presentation. So I'm gonna share my screen with you. Again, we appreciate your patience this evening. And, all right, so Mrs. Ryan, maybe if you can give me a thumbs up that that looks good and everybody can see it. It's okay. All righty, so welcome to kindergarten orientation. All right, so I want to introduce you to another important person, and that is our secretary at Peterborough Street is Mrs. Bernadette Moyer. So you'll get to know Mrs. Moyer well if you need to call Peterborough Street or you have to come to school for something. Otherwise, you're going to hear from Mrs. Ryan and Mrs. Clark tonight. And hopefully, okay, all righty. So kindergarten teachers and teacher aides, we are so fortunate to be able to have 5 sections of in-person kindergarten this year. And in each of our kindergarten classrooms, we have aides who are with us each and every day. And that is very unique and something that we just feel so fortunate to have 2 adults who will be working with our children when they are with us in person here at school. So all of these ladies are wonderfully devoted, nurturing, very dedicated to what they do here. And I'm going to let you take a peek. I'm going to introduce you to them. I have pictures of them to share with you. So let's see here. Okay, so we have Mrs. Moran and Mrs. Debrick, and Mrs. Schmidt and Miss Emmerich, Mrs. Pierce and Mrs. Mason, Mrs. Antle and Mrs. Fiore is joining us here at Peterborough Street this year, Mrs. Paul and Mrs. Osinski, Mrs. Wilcox and Mrs. Stevens, and Mrs. Cassava and Mrs. Davis. We also have a lot of related services and support people who will be helping us out as well. So you may hear about Mrs. Wallace and Mrs. Thomas. Those are our reading specialists. Mrs. Gibo is our math specialist. Mrs. Tully is our speech and language teacher. Mrs. DiMaggio is our physical therapist. Mrs. Burkhead is our occupational therapist. And then we have Mrs. Berezin and Mrs. Schlegel down here on a Fun Spirit Day. They are our social worker and our school psychologist. And then we have our special area teachers. So we have Mrs. Pelkovic is our art teacher. She shared at Southside. Mrs. Bonaventura is our PE teacher. Mrs. Mamone is our librarian. And Miss Woodruff is now Miss Pachuco because she was married on August 1st. So she may look familiar to some of your children. So lots of people at Peterborough Street who care about your kiddos. So kindergarten goals, we've got a lot of them. But I want to tell you that the first few weeks of school, of course, are going to be spent building relationships and getting to know each other. And we will also, of course, be teaching the children all of our health and safety protocols as well. But ultimately, we want your children to have fun and enjoy coming to school. We want them to feel that school is a safe place and to develop a sense of belonging and security in the classroom. We also want them to develop appropriate ways of responding to people, to learn to accept limits and to begin to establish them independently, to develop an ability to express their feelings, and to learn to question, evaluate, compare, reason, and problem solve in order to be college and career ready. And I know that sounds like a lot for a 4 or 5-year-old, but we have to start early. And this is the perfect place for that to happen here at Peterborough Street. We also want them to develop an interest and enjoyment of literature, art, music, and science, and to cultivate an active and healthy imagination. The New York State standards guide us in curriculum writing, and we use the ELA and math modules as resources. So a typical day in kindergarten is a morning welcome time and organization, sometimes a morning meeting in classrooms. Students usually have a morning job that they will work on. Calendar, weather, attendance, lunch count, those kind of housekeeping items come next. There's time for journal writing and ELA skills, stations and group rotations, lunch and recess. We do go outside for recess if it is 20 degrees or warmer with the wind chill factor. So we appreciate it if our kiddos are dressed for it with boots and snow pants and all that important, all those layers. Specials, our ELA listening and learning time in which social studies and science are embedded, and then math and snack time. And for the past several years, we've been approaching snacks in a way that has been working really well for us. So parents will be asked to provide classroom snacks on selected months throughout the school year. So you'll receive a note that looks like this with a highlighted snack when it's your turn, and teachers will let you know if there is a serious allergy or if certain foods need to be avoided. So then you'll also see these are the little reminder slips that will come home to help keep everybody on track too. Okay, so I have a link here that I hope is gonna work. Oh good, to our supply list. Alrighty. And this is coming home. It's accessible on our website. If you go to the district webpage and the parent tab, there's a section on school supplies, so you could just click on the kindergarten tab. They're listed there for all grade levels. And I just wanted to go over a couple of highlights on this sheet. And that is the water bottle with a flip top, closed top. So not one that's open with a straw, but one with a secure lid would be absolutely ideal, please. And then something new that we have added this year with the pandemic is a Ziploc bag with an extra face mask to keep in school. So that would be wonderful if we could have those on hand here at Peterborough Street. And then you've got some typical supplies down there. It's not necessary that you label those things. Your child will have his or her own toolbox or pencil box. That's what that is. The standard plastic pencil box with the snap close lid. Those are 5 by 8. So that's where your child's individual tools will be stored. We won't be sharing supplies as much as we used to in the past, of course. So, righty. Okay, the next thing I'd like to tell you about is PBIS. Positive Behavioral Interventions and Supports is what PBIS stands for. And that is a great framework that provides ideas to help support teaching and modeling and recognizing positive and appropriate behavior in schools, and identifies systems for logically responding to classroom and individual student problems. So our mission statement embeds the big 3 rules that we have here at Peterborough Street. So the mission statement is that we, the staff and students at Peterborough Street and Southside, will work together to create a positive and caring school community through our words and actions. So to be ready to learn every day, we will encourage each other to be safe, to be respectful, and to be responsible. So those are the big three, and our voice levels are listed down at the bottom. A voice level 0 is a silent reminder. So that may be if the teacher is talking to another adult, or bus drivers may use that if they need everybody to be quiet on the bus. Typically, we use a whisper voice or a partner voice. That's a voice level 1. Our speaking voice in the classroom would be a 2. And then we say voice level 3 for outside or our recess voice. And your children will be able to tell you lots about those once they've spent a little bit of time with us. If they happen to have been with us for pre-K, then you probably already know all about those. Okay, so building and safety procedures are next. Parking. So for those of you who might not be familiar with it, parking is at a premium at Peterborough Street. It's never easy. We do have spaces in the back and spaces on the north side of the building, and then there is street parking in the front, but I can't guarantee that that shouldn't be for any length of time out front. All of our doors are locked at all times, and the single point of entry for us is the front doors. And we have a handicap accessible entry at the rear entrance where our elevator is, if you ever need that. You can press the buzzer for entry, and it would be Mrs. Moyer, or our lunchtime relief secretary is Mrs. Skinner, who would be able to respond to your needs. Everyone is always asked for photo ID. And then we do ask that people sign in at the office and wear a visitor's tag at all times. And I feel like that's a little bit silly to be telling you right now because of the, the precautions in place and the fact that we can only, essential personnel only are allowed at school. So we won't be able to let parents in our building first thing in the fall. But I want you to know those procedures because this is only temporary and you will be welcome in our building as soon as it is safe. So we do ask everybody to sign in, and the visitor's tag or the badge that you wear looks similar to my badge. And that just lets staff and students alike know that even if you're not a familiar face, you are supposed to be here because you have on the badge that indicates that you are a safe person and supposed to be here. Our green student information sheets are of the utmost importance. That's how we update our computer system, and that's where there is contact information for you, people that you give permission to pick up your child at school in the event that you couldn't, and those kind of details. So we ask, those should have been mailed, or they are being mailed home with everyone with your student information. Or class placement lists and such. So if you can make sure that you check those, make any changes or additions that you need to, and then send those with us, send them right back to school, that would be wonderful. Dismissal time, we do ask, and this one's not as appropriate, we do ask that you exit via the front doors or the north doors. So that's the opposite side of where kids are dropped off by the buses. And that is just to keep the flow of traffic going. That really helps us out if folks can, just use those two doors and you're not trying to go out a door that, that students are exiting to the buses. So our school day. So I've made some adjustments on this slide. Based on some changes as far as breakfast goes. So students may enter our building at 8:40. Normal arrival time would be 8:30 if we were able to have breakfast eaters in the building, but all of our breakfasts are going to be a grab and go to eat at home. So they're going to go home the day at least the day before for breakfast. So we won't have to, the 8:40 will be the new arrival time. Students can enter classrooms right at that time, and students need to be in classrooms at 8:50 or they are considered tardy. And that means that they would need a late pass from the office. So if you happen to be dropping off late one day, we just ask that you accompany your child to the building. Normally you would come in and you would sign your child in, but we'll come down and meet you at the door and help with that process. We're still streamlining some of those things because we can't let parents in the building right now. And then we just always encourage independence and ask that you say goodbye at the door or at the car. We're going to have a lot of additional staff available at the beginning of the day and at the end of the day to help get students into the building and to help match students with parents at the end of the day as well. So we've had to do some tweaking to our normal routines around here, but it's all coming together very nicely. Okay, so everyday walker permission forms. You can sign one of these little slips if you plan to pick your child up at school every day. That way you wouldn't have to sign your child out every day. So you can just, and if your circumstance happens to change, that's not a big deal at all. You just let us know. Or maybe your child will start by riding the bus and then you decide to pick up every day. We can go back and forth with that, but this is a time saver for us. And we're working with transportation on that right now regarding the students that they're going to have to transport and then who's doing a self-transport for us. Students are released at 2:55 and we are working with Southside and Transportation to stagger our dismissal time for buses and walkers, just to make that as smooth as possible. So we'll share more information about that as soon as it's solidified. We normally would be asking parents to wait in the vestibule area, which is at the front of the building, at the main stairs, at the top and bottom of that staircase. But again, since we unfortunately can't invite you in the building, that won't be an issue for right now. But again, we're working on safe plans, trying to make dismissal, arrival and dismissal as smooth as possible. If there ever was a time when you had to pick your child up that was not planned, it would be wonderful if you could call the office as soon as you know about that. If you know ahead of time and can send a note, that is absolutely ideal so that we can plan ahead for that. So speaking of that, picking your child up early, the notes need to come in and they go right, if they go to the classroom, the notes will then come to the office so that the office staff knows what has to happen and any changes for the end of the day. You would always report directly to the office to sign your child out. And then the secretary calls your child down. So that's just our protocol rather than parents going directly to a classroom at any time. And then the only other requirement that we have regarding picking up is that the person needs to be 18 years old or older and have a photo ID. Okay, so our next slide talks about the importance of good attendance. And we want to start good habits early. So that means being present and being on time. So we want to start children in good habits and for them to instill, that message that school is important and it's important that they are here each and every day. That's going to be even more important with the hybrid model that we have this year. So all of our students will be coming to school. If they're going to come to in-person instruction, everyone will come at least 2 days of the week. So it's absolutely imperative that they're here those 2 days because we only get them for 2 days. And it can add up fast. And I know you may think, oh, it's only kindergarten. It's not a big deal. But it really can add up, and missing just 10% or even which would equate about 18 days can make it hard for students to learn to read and to comprehend. And that feeling of being overwhelmed or being behind, it's also hard if students can't get into the flow or the routine when they're not here regularly. So we really do focus on good attendance, and we like to start that young. Okay, so I have some cafeteria requests. Tina Omens is our Director of Food Service. And so when you need to send in money, could be for breakfast, could be for lunch, if you can make sure that you send it in a labeled envelope so it has your student's name and the teacher, and then the desired use of the money. If the money is just for lunches or if it's for breakfast and lunch, that would be great. We always like to give parents the option to come in and have lunch with their child. But we usually ask that you wait until mid-October to do that so that we have established nice routines with teachers and students and the cafeteria aides. This is on hold right now because we can't invite you into the building, but when that is possible, we will reach out to let kindergarten parents know about that. If that is something that you'd like to do, it's helpful if you call the office and let us know on that day by 9 o'clock. That way the secretary knows and we can place a lunch order for you as well. Teachers like to have a heads up about that too. We do request that you don't bring in outside food or run to McDonald's to bring lunch for you and lunch for your child, because then we have lots of jealousy and hurt feelings down in the cafeteria. So we'd like to avoid that. But you just check in the office, we'd give you a visitor's badge, and you could head right to the cafeteria. We do request just one guest at a time though, because our cafeteria is pretty tiny. This is a good time for me to let you know that some of our students will be eating lunch in their classrooms and some of our students will be eating lunch in the cafeteria. So we have set up our cafeteria we remove the tables and have desks in the cafeteria. They're all facing the same way. They're all spaced apart at an appropriate, at a safe distance. And so some of the classes will be eating right in the cafeteria. If they're eating in their rooms, then lunch will be delivered to those classrooms, just so you know how that's going to look. So your child will have a 4-digit PIN number. We'll send that home so that you can help us practice that so that they know. I know number identification is something we'll be working on, but it will be important that they put in their lunch PIN number. And you can utilize mylunchmoney.com to pay online for lunches. And prices this year are $1.25 for breakfast, $2.45 for lunch, and milk is 50 cents again this year. If anyone is in need of a free and reduced lunch application, you can access those online. And you could also just come to Peterborough Street to pick one of those up. And you can complete the form if your circumstances ever change and you think that you might qualify for free or reduced lunch. Just let us know. We're happy to, send an application home and get that processed over in that department. And it's certainly all right for you to send a healthy lunch from home with your child. So, okay, dress code is next before I turn things over to Mrs. Ryan. So a student's dress shall be, and this is the district-wide, dress code, be safe, appropriate, and not disrupt the educational process. It should exclude tube tops, halter tops, and spaghetti straps. And it should include safe footwear at all times. So here at Peterborough Street, we love our beautiful historic old building, but it's the building with all the stairs and the littlest legs. So we have wood chips out on the playground. So safe sandals are absolutely key. And safe sandals at Peterborough Street mean they have a strap behind the ankle. So that's very helpful. It's always great to have a set of sneakers here for recess. That's helpful too. And then no hats, hoods, or bandanas as part of our dress code. Okay, so Mrs. Megan Ryan is our wonderful school nurse, and I'm going to turn things over to her next.
Thank you, Ms. Carnahan. Good evening, everybody. Again, my name is Mrs. Ryan. This is my 4th year here at Peterborough Street School. And I am a registered nurse, and some of you may know me. Some of you haven't met me yet, and I look forward to meeting you. I'm going to hold up a piece of paper. This is very, very high tech. This is this is the health office handbook. This will go home with your child the first week or so of school, and it outlines everything important that you need to know regarding the health office. So I'm just going to go through things briefly tonight, but please know that you're going to get the handbook home with your child. So the first topic is for medications. Please remember that all medications need to be hand delivered to me by an adult. No medications can ever be transported by a student in their backpack. All medications, whether they're prescription or over the counter, require a parental permission slip filled out and a written doctor's order from your child's doctor. Those forms are available on the Canastota website. They're also available here at the school. And just throughout the school year, if the need arises, you can send me a note or give me a call and I can put a blank form in your child's folder to bring home to you. The next item is immunization. So for kindergarten, the children are required to be up to date with their immunizations by the 14th day after school starts. That's a grace period granted by New York State. So what I like to say is that immunizations really should be up to date by the first day of school. The state does give us 2 weeks to sort of get it together if something is missing. But if you haven't sent in any immunization documentation yet, please go ahead and send that in. Typically, when we have this orientation night in person, I can collect a lot of physicals and immunization records in person, and we can't do that tonight, but please know that you can drop it off here at school or mail it into the school or have your doctor's office fax it to the school. Or send it in with your child on the first day of school. Let's see, the next topic is physicals or health exams. All kids going into kindergarten this year need to have a current physical on record here in the health office. The physicals are considered current for the current school year when they're dated within a year of the time we start school. So any physical after September of 2019 is going to be sufficient for this whole year. There are specific forms that the doctor can fill out for the health exam. Those forms are available on the Canastota website. Also, they're here at school. You can let me know if you need a form. And some doctors already have the forms. They just print it out at the time of the physical and give you a copy. And you can, again, send those right in for me. I like to have them all in by the end of September. That really helps with record keeping. For regular screenings, that includes vision screenings for near, far, and color vision, and hearing screenings. Just for this year, those routine health screenings that I typically do every year won't take place. The requirement has been waived by New York State due to COVID-19. So I would just suggest that when you take your regular health exam, you make sure you mention it to the doctor so they can do their eye exam and hearing test there at the doctor's office. If you develop a specific concern throughout the school year, by all means, please reach out to me and I can here or something there. I just won't be able to do routine screenings for the whole kindergarten class this year. The next topic is dental health. The Canastota school does not require a dental health exam, but we do recommend it. Dental health is so important for our little ones. Developing teeth and losing baby teeth and getting adult teeth and learning how to brush regularly and floss every day. So if and when you do visit, your child does visit a dentist, please have them fill out the dental health form, again, available on the Canastota website, and send that right in to me. I'll put it on file so that we can have documentation that they have been seen by a dentist. Maybe Ms. Carnahan already mentioned this, but I'll mention it again. How important it is to make sure that all the phone numbers we have here are current, just in case I need to get a hold of you during the day if your child becomes ill at school and I need to get a hold of you to come pick them up. I need to be able to get a hold of someone who's available to come pick them up during the day, whether it's you or a babysitter or a grandma or grandpa. We have to make sure we have all those phone numbers. Extra clothes. This is a little different this year. In years past, I would keep extra clothes in my office that kids would bring in. This year, I'm asking for you to please, if your child prefers to have their own clothes in the case of an accident, to keep them in a labeled Ziploc baggie in their backpack. If you prefer not to do that and they have an accident, that's okay too. I always have extra clothes in my office for children to borrow. The Canastota School District has a no live head lice policy. So if I were to discover live head lice on one of your children, you'd get a call from me and you'd have to come pick them up at school that day, take them home for treatment, and then bring them back to school the next day. They wouldn't be able to ride the bus back because they have to be rechecked by the school nurse before they can be readmitted to the classroom. So we try to get ahead of outbreaks of head lice by limiting contact on the school bus or anything like that until the child has been rechecked and confirmed that there's no live head lice. On the topic of any food allergies, environmental allergies, or major health concerns, I encourage you to please let me know of everything as soon as possible. That way we can make accommodations in the classroom regarding snack and lunch to be sure that your children are safe and away from their allergen, and then any health concerns that may need assistance at school, that I'm aware of everything as well as the classroom teacher, and I will let the ladies in the cafeteria know of food allergies, and the transportation department as well needs to have that information. The last item on the list here is our sick policy. Our district sick policy has always been that a student experiencing any vomiting, diarrhea, or fever greater than 100 must remain home away from school and not return to school until 24 hours after they're fever-free without fever-reducing medication. That is still true. There will be more information in the next few days coming from the district regarding specific sick procedures related to COVID-19. One or two more things I just want to mention that are going to be a little different this year. If your child requires an inhaler at school or a nebulizer for chronic asthma, please note that nebulizers are not being allowed in the school setting this year because they can produce sprays of respiratory droplets. So if your child requires a nebulizer, please contact your doctor and have them change it to a metered dose inhaler, a puffer with a spacer to be used in the school setting. Let's see. And last but not least, most importantly, if your child is feeling ill, please keep them home until at least 24 hours after their symptoms have resolved. This will reduce the transmission of not only COVID-19, but other illnesses such as the flu, and help to keep our schools open. I appreciate all of your attention, and I can't wait to meet all of your kids soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Ryan. Okay, we're going to switch gears to the transportation department next. We have a new secretary in that department, and that is Maria Campbell. And our director of transportation, Mrs. Cindy Clark, is going to talk to you about the next slide. Cindy, you can unmute anytime.
Welcome, everyone. Pretty excited to be going back after a few months being off. In transportation, to start out, I do want to reassure everybody that our buses will be cleaned every day after every run. We are limited at this point to 21 per bus, so we will be making adjustments on our buses to accommodate the seating. So you may see different buses going down different roads or the same roads, as we're just trying to pick up all the children. But please remind your child that of his or her bus number and the animal. They're going to probably remember the animal more so than the bus number. We have route numbers on the sides of the buses. So for an example, last year, Route 10 was bus 193. Every year our bus numbers change. The drivers get different buses. So remembering the route number is the most important thing, along with the animal. If that bus was to break down and I need to give them a sub, it's going to be a different bus number, but the route number will always be the same. The bus tags will be handed out to all the children. Make sure that they're attached to their backpacks. That way the drivers and the school staff, they look at the tags before they enter the bus. The drivers and or the assistants on the buses also look at them to ensure that they are on the correct buses. Be careful with the backpacks and any drawstrings with their hoodies, their coats, their that they, we want to make sure that they're not really loose so that they don't get caught in any handrails and or doors. Labeling your child's backpack within the inside. A lot of students, believe it or not, they throw their book bag on the floor. They get off the bus, they go into the school, and then, our people notice they're on the bus, so we run them into the school. So having your child's name on it helps us know who that child was. The first few days, I should actually say probably for the first week or two, the bus routes are going to look a little different. We're going to be learning the routes themselves. My drivers are all getting new routes. So the first few days is definitely going to be trial and error. We will always pick up your children. We will always bring your children home, even if we've got to go around the block. But after a few days, it usually goes pretty quickly, pretty smoothly. And then you'll see the drivers pretty much on time within a minute or so. Depending on the weather. In the winter, it could be a little bit longer, but just be patient with that with us, if you would, please. Changes for the day must be called in by noon. We're not accepting any changes after 12 o'clock. Usually the people will call either the bus garage or Peterborough Street, so that we're to assure that the child gets on the right bus. The children that are in the classes are learning their curriculums, and it's just a lot easier if by noon we have all that information. If there's an emergency after noon, the only person that can make that change would be my office. I'm pretty strict on it. I try not to overcome it unless it is true an emergency. When we're dropping off your child, okay, we require pre-K, kindergarten, and first grade. We like to see somebody there. We will not drop somebody off. The bus drivers are told that they cannot just drop the children off and let them go. A parent does need to be seen, whether it's a parent, grandparent, an older sibling. We're okay with that as long as you tell the driver that the older child will be getting the students. If for some reason you're not there, and I'm going to repeat also, phone numbers are extremely important. We if somebody's not at the bus stop, we make that phone call. If I can't get a hold of you because a number has changed, then your child may get upset, and then they're going to be going back to the school because we can't get a hold of you. So it's very imperative to always try to keep phone numbers up to date with the school and transportation, and along with the nurse's office. So we'll try to make that phone call. If we can't get through to anybody, the child will go back to Peterborough School, and you'll need to pick up your child there. We also reinforce the PBIS voice levels. When the bus drivers need to have it quiet, they put up this 0, and the students do get to know that pretty quick, or they'll do a 1, okay, so you can talk to your partner. It works really well. You'll be amazed. You'll probably do it at home. I know I do it sometimes with my granddaughter. So do we have another slide there?
Nope.
Jen?
That's all I have.
Okay, well, I have a few more things that I'd just like quickly to go over. We do bus safety drills. You'll probably hear your child come home and say that they went out the back door. We do a back door, we do a front door, and then we do both, middle of the bus. Half of it goes out to the front, half goes out to the back. But in the first 7 days, this is being done. It's mandatory by law that we have to do that. So you'll hear your children come home and say that they went out the back door, and they did, and they'll have fun doing that. Working at Peterborough with my buses it gets very tied up over there. We try to, if you happen to be coming around the corner and you see buses already up in lineup, we try to put 5, just hold back if you could. If you're in the back parking lot, we try to put 5 buses in at a time. They load pretty fast. If I can only load 2 buses because a car got in between, number one, it's unsafe for all the children and everybody involved. And then it also delays that much more of the parking in the back. You might see me out there quite a bit directing some of that. The quicker that we can get those buses through, the easier that flow does go through. If this is your child's first time on the bus, you will probably see your child have some anxiety along with yourself. If they start, crying and they don't want to get on the bus, don't feel disappointed. It's just a separation issue. Believe it or not, I've had many experiences. I drove for 8 years myself. And had a lot of students crying as we were pulling away. But believe me, when we're going down the road, the child is happy, they're smiling, they'll do fine. We've never really had any serious problems with any of that. Phone numbers, let's talk about that. And one other thing that I'd like to mention is that we have been calling parents at every single grade level. Because of only having 21 on a bus, we really need to know who's going to be riding the bus and who's going to be a parent transport. So if for some reason you've gotten a message from one of my staff members, please reach back out to us and let us know if you will be transporting your child or if that child needs transportation. We are only allowing 1 location due to only being in school the 2 days. We prefer the same location for pickup and drop off on both days. For an example, if they're at your house on Monday and they go Monday and Thursday, but Thursday you got to work and they got to go to the babysitters, we would prefer if you could take that child to that babysitter on Monday also, seeing as how that would be more convenient for you on Thursday due to working. That way that child stays on that 1 bus and I'm not having to give up a seat. Or leave a seat empty to accommodate for those 2 days. It'll run a lot more efficient for us. We really would appreciate that. And I think the last thing that I got to say is we do not do play dates. Your child, please do not call in a request for your child to go to little Tommy's house because they're having a sleepover. We don't do that for safety reasons. Each child they either have to go home or to the sitters. With all that, that's all I have. If you should have any questions, more than welcome to call my office at any time. I have an answering machine on there all the time, and we will definitely get back to you. So can't wait to see everybody. We'll be out there the first day, rooting everybody on and getting them to their appropriate places.
Thank you, Cindy. Okay, so the end is in sight, I promise. I want to tell you a little bit about our school psychologist and social worker. We're very fortunate to share a psychologist and social worker with Southside. Our psychologist is Mrs. Schlegel and our social worker is Mrs. Berezin. And I do want to just assure you that they are our experts as far as social emotional health, and the health and well-being of everyone is going to be our priority when we get back to school. So please know that mental health, you know, that's and establishing relationships. That's what we are here for, and that's what we are going to be focusing on. We may know about some of the traumas or experiences that children had being home and being isolated, at least to some degree, since March. So we're very cognizant of that, and our psychologist and social worker are going to be working with teachers and working with all of the staff just to make sure that it's as smooth of a transition back to school as possible. They've been home or with family for a lot of months now, and it's going to be an adjustment, but we're going to get through that together. I've mentioned on this slide the changes and challenges lunch groups that are available for grades 1 through 3. And so those are to provide support to students who experience changes and challenges. Could be a separation or a divorce, could be the death of a loved one or a pet, or a foster care placement. And students would meet with one of those ladies during the lunchtime to talk about those family changes, to share, to gain an understanding of feelings, maybe learn some coping strategies, and to provide ongoing support to each other. It might be new for your child, and he or she you know, might be having a hard time with that. But to know that other students are in that situation too, that's comforting. And so they will always be asked to respect each other's privacy and to not repeat things that are said by other group members. And we'll certainly encourage children to share general information about the meetings at home, is how that would work. So the topics and activities and such. So these ladies are here to provide support. If parents have social, emotional, or behavioral concerns about your child, and in-school counseling is also available if issues are impacting the child at school. And we can also help with outside resources if the issues are not affecting the child at school. So please don't hesitate to reach out to us. You know, we're here to help and want to you know, help your family through anything that that they may be going through at any time. Oops, wrong way. All right, communication is key. We believe there are absolutely no silly questions, and we just want to reiterate, don't hesitate to contact your child's teacher. That should always be step one if you have any questions or concerns. We always appreciate a heads up if a morning has been particularly rough, or if a change at home may affect your child. The 50% rule applies, and so that means that we'll agree to believe 50% of what your child tells us happens at home, if you'll agree to believe 50% of what your child says happens here at school when he or she gets home. So we just need to, you know, keep things in perspective and make sure we maintain good communication. They can be good little exaggerators, but it always helps to get the adult version, you know, if you have any concerns about anything that happens at school. We try to get photos and blurbs up on the district Facebook page often, so be sure to check that out. You are automatically enrolled in School Messenger, which is our district alert system. So some of you received a message about tonight and this Zoom invitation in that manner, and some of you received a private email there. So by the end of this month, any of our kindergartners who were receiving summer services, you're not officially in our alert system just yet because those services are still taking place. That will be all set as of the August 31st. So we'll do a little test of that blast so that you would know you would get information. Normally you'd hear about a snow day, or if we had a spirit day or something coming up at Peterborough Street, you'll hear from me in that manner. So it just keeps it simple. You'll get an email or a text. If you are good with receiving a text message, you have to sign up for that on your own though. So if you go to the website, the district website in the parent section, School Messenger is an option there, and it'll walk you through what you have to do to sign up for that to enter your number. Teachers will be sending home weekly newsletters with you. Our kindergarten teachers are very faithful about that. And we will also share our monthly newsletter with you via School Messenger. I want you to know that our doors and ears and our minds are always open, and we want your child's year in kindergarten to be memorable and wonderful in every way. It's going to be a different one, that's for sure, but we're going to find the silver linings, and we're absolutely going to make the best of that. A parent handbook will be coming home that will reiterate some of the information that we've shared this evening. And I would normally tell you about a volunteer orientation opportunity, because we love to have parents come in to help, just like many of you did in pre-K. Normally that would be early in the fall. It's just on hold right now, again, due to the restrictions that we have here. But if we're able to hold that and we can let parents in the building to volunteer, we absolutely will. I'd like to encourage you to join our PTA. We'll be sending information home about that soon. They spoil kindergartners the most, which is quite a treat. And in a typical year, there are books and Canastota t-shirts and water bottles, and they really do like to welcome our kindergartners and make sure that they know that they're loved here at Peterborough Street. So please consider joining, contributing with your membership, or if you're willing to help with an event that we could hold down the road, that would be fabulous too. I already told you about green student information sheets that are so important for us with updated contact information. And the other important sheet is our pink emergency dismissal sheets. So those were mailed home with our student placement information. So you will be receiving those within the next day or two. And those are super important for us to have, to know what your child's plan will be in the event that there was a weather-related closure, or we just needed to close early due to a water main break or something. We need to know what the plan will be for your child. The easiest plan, honestly, is choice one, and that's that your child would do what he or she normally does. That keeps things very easy here for us at Peterborough Street with transportation and pickups. But that, I think the form is pretty self-explanatory. So if you could just make sure that you complete that and return that, that would be helpful. And we're working on a replacement for open house. Normally we would be inviting you to school, and you could bring supplies in, you to get a meet and greet time with the classroom teacher and that kind of thing, and be able to meet some classmates. Unfortunately, we're not able to do that, but we will be, there'll be a virtual opportunity, and we're looking at planning, I think what we're gonna call a beep and greet that will take place. That's in the works right now. It's the tentative date, I believe, is the 8th of September, but we'll send more information out about that. It would look very much like our send-off that we had in June, if you had a pre-K-er here, just so we can, wave and say hi. And this will be our opportunity to provide you with the Chromebook and charger that all of our kindergarteners are going to be issued so that they have access to a device. So, and I think we're also working on a bus video to help your child know what to expect if they have not spent any time on a school bus just yet. So we're trying to make it as authentic as possible, and to, be able to answer questions with avenues and opportunities like tonight. So I'm just got another slide or two here. So again, we're looking forward to a wonderful school year with you, getting to know you and your kindergartner better. I'm going to be able to check the chat as soon as I'm done sharing my screen. But I do want to let you know the next slide has important names and numbers on that. I'll go to that right now. So that if that was something that you wanted to take a picture of, the Peterborough Street office number and just who everybody is, Mrs. Ryan's number directly, transportation is there. And I'm happy to answer any questions that people have. It might make more sense if you've got a particular question for Mrs. Ryan about your child, or you have a transportation question, then that would be better for you to call Mrs. Clark and at least leave a message there if no one is able to take your call. But I'm gonna respond. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen, and then we'll see where we are with some questions. And if you'd like to stay on, we're happy to try to answer those. Okay, we have some really good ones here. So how is attendance going to be handled with the virtual learning days? So that is a wonderful question. So I think that this person is talking about how that's going to work on the days that students are home. So students who are coming to school 2 days a week and then learning at home, those are our hybrid students. So they're going to spend time at school and they're going to spend time at home learning. And attendance is going to be, we're still planning the actual schedule of that, but there will be a particular time of day when we're going to ask kindergarteners to log on, so that they can have a live face-to-face interaction and engagement with a teacher. So they will be, there may be some reteaching going on, there may be a story, there may be a calendar time in a morning meeting, and those kind of things to mimic what would be happening here at school. And then there will be follow through and reteaching with activities that we would ask the child to do. So there'll be some modeling and that kind of thing. Those sessions are going to be recorded. So if that doesn't happen to be convenient because your child is at daycare or your child is with grandma, we certainly understand and are mindful of the fact that our kindergartners aren't going to be as independent as a third grader or a seventh grader or a high schooler with devices and that kind of thing. That's why we're going to record them, and that's why you can watch them at a later date, and you'll be able to comment, and that will count for attendance. So no worries as far as that goes. I'm sure we're going to have bumps in the road with that, but we're going to get through it together. We had another really good question about, yes, dropping off and picking up. For those not taking the bus. So we're looking at having our kindergarten aides are going to be assisting in the morning and in the afternoon. And we're looking at a system, morning I don't think is going to be as hard because it can kind of be a drop and go in the front of the building, and we're going to have lots of staff to support. There's just not a whole lot of options with our buses in here and disembarking for parents to park. But at the end of the day, we're going to be coordinating that so that we know the students who are going to be picked up, and they'll be assigned a person, and we'll mesh the child with the family. We're considering doing something on like bright colored cards. And again, this is just one of our ideas so that we know who you're looking for. We've got, you know, that piece of paper, and we know the child that's going to be matched up with that vehicle. So we're going to work through all of that. We'll just, we'll communicate with you when we know a little bit better what that's going to look like. And the recorded video, this is going to be on our Peterborough Street website, where we advertise this Zoom chat is where we'll put that. That's another great question. And I have a super question about a child with an IEP. Will he or she be able to come 5 days a week? That is exactly what we are working on. And I do think we're going to be able to start that right away here at Peterborough Street. I don't know that that is going to start right out of the gate at Southside or Robert Street, but that is our goal for Peterborough Street here. And our student placement letters actually went out today, so they should be arriving at your home within the next day or two. And at the bottom of that welcome back letter, you will find that the cohort we're planning on your child in is listed there. So if you notice a problem with that, or that's not what we talked about, please reach right out to us at Peterborough Street, and we're going to try to work through all of those kinks. I'll reiterate again from the reopening plan, the division there, or how we've separated kids. Cohort number 1 means their last name starts between A and L. Cohort number 2 will, those are our M through Z kids, but those are with exceptions for both. We're trying to balance classes here at school, and we're trying to be accommodating to families. Sometimes we have different last names that we're working with, and we had about 9% of our population in the district requested to have their family or their children in opposite cohorts, so they're only working with one child at home at a time. So we've had a lot to juggle in that regard. So we just ask for your patience while we work through all of that. But you'll be getting that information home in the next couple of days. And I'm also going to save the chat. So I'm hoping that if we don't happen to answer your question, either whoever will be the expert to answer it will be back in touch with you. So, and let's see, when will we find out what remote learning looks like? That's still being built, and we will be sharing that, and we'll share specifics on the times with folks very soon. And remote teachers, this is another super question. Will remote learners have a dedicated teacher? So, and that is an absolute yes. So we will have a staff member who is going to be the teacher of the remote kindergarteners. And then that staff member also happens to be the teacher of our remote first graders. So they'll have separate times, separate live times with that teacher, but they will have a different teacher, yes. I answered an attendance question. Okay, then there's a great question about, will face masks be worn in class for those that will be at school? So probably the way for me to answer that is yes. So face masks need to be worn on the school bus, and whenever we are vertical here at school, essentially. So when students come in the building and they're walking to their classrooms, we've got markers on the floor that are guiding everyone as far as what's appropriate to be socially distant. And they will, there will be times when we're going to plan for mask breaks, I guess is what I'm saying. And the way that we're going to do that here at Peterborough Street is we're going to have mask time when masks definitely have to be on. And then we're going to have what we call FaceTime. And that means you don't have to have your mask on. And so we will absolutely plan for those breaks. Kiddos are going to need that break. Teachers are going to need those breaks. And we'll make sure that we're able to socially distance while we don't have masks on. If your child happens to be, working on, a coloring job at his or her desk and they're 6 feet away from other kids, that could be an appropriate time for a mask break. So we are not expecting that they're going to wear their masks 24/7 here at school. Certainly if we can't socially distance, then they will be wearing masks, but we know they're going to need breaks from that. And I'd like to put everybody's mind at ease. We were able to screen some of our kindergarten friends. Not everyone was involved in that, but we did a screening for kindergarten friends who had entered the district and were not part of our pre-K class. So we did that on Monday. We had 17 kiddos. We had our protocols in place, and they did a phenomenal job. Everyone was prepared, everyone was on time. All of our kids wore their masks. They came in, they washed their hands, they rotated through their stations, they washed their hands again. They got their goodies and off they went. They really did great. They knew what our expectations were, and they did a fabulous job with that. We're going to spend a lot of time talking about, you know, when we have to wear masks and when we can have those breaks. And we know they're going to pick it up. We will train them, we will practice, and you know, we're going to get used to the new normal that is going to be our way of life starting school in the fall. And I have a great question about, can our child be picked up some days and then dropped off other days? And we can, that's might be a better one for transportation. If that could be consistent during the week, that would absolutely be ideal. But that may be a better question for transportation. Again, I'll save the chat so that we can keep track of that. And then I have another great question about a child who receives speech therapy, and it's supposed to be a certain number of days a week, and how is that going to work this year? So it might be, I could answer that question better if we talked about the child in particular, so that parent can certainly email me, but we are going to do our very best to meet the goals on the IEPs. That is not going to be an easy feat if it is, you know, 3 or 4 or 5 days a week, with the fact that we're only going to be able to be in person 2 days a week. But that is an absolute priority to us. We are looking at some creative options for Wednesdays during the week. So if your child receives speech services, when we may be inviting your child to come to school on Wednesdays in addition to his or her other 2 days. And they may also be receiving some of their therapies remotely. So we'll talk about that, and we'll work through those with Mrs. Tully. She's our speech therapist. And I do have another question about a child. Can they be dropped off in the morning by a parent? Absolutely. It would be important that we let transportation know that the child doesn't need a ride to school. You'll self-transport in the morning, and then he just needs a ride home in the afternoon. Those are fabulous things to let transportation know about. And it looks like there's another question about a doctor's note. So I think that one would probably be best answered by our school nurse. So I'll make sure that Mrs. Ryan gets that question also. And I think the one of the other things that parents have been asking is outdoor recess going to be a possibility? So I will just let you know that we have been in very close contact with Madison County and the infectious disease specialist there, and outdoor recess, you know, we're all on the same page. I've been working with Mrs. Ryan through a lot of details and what our days are going to look like here at Peterborough Street. Outdoor recess is going to be okay. That is considered a very low risk activity, and so it's going to happen. They're going to have to wear their masks. They're going to wash their hands before they go outside, and they're going to wash their hands when they come back inside. But we have been given the green light for outdoor recess. So that is some great news. And I think it would probably be easier. Let's see, I'm going to see if we'll take maybe just one more question here. Yeah, I'm going to save this chat. I think we've got a couple specific questions at the end that I may not have all of the answers to. So one is, if our child is out sick, can they still log in remotely? And that one's a little bit, that's a little bit tricky. My answer, if I have to answer that right now, is I'm honestly not sure about that. They will have a remote teacher, but if they're homesick, then that remote teacher wouldn't be ready for them on that particular day. But that's still something that we're working out the kinks with. We'd have to figure out how those meets and invitations would work for children. And it would require, I have the question says, you know, a login code for the other cohort so they're not absent for the day. So that's something, that's a great question that we've not gone that far to explore that. If a child is sick on their in-person day, can they log in remotely with the hybrid crew? So again, I'm going to need a little bit more time to work on that one. And where can I find the specific stipulations to determine if my child can or should be on-site learning on all days? So I'm not quite sure if that question is about, that might be a good question. If you call Peterborough Street, I'm happy to, I need a little bit more information to be able to answer that question accurately, I think. It may have to do with health, and then Mrs. Ryan would be able to address that if your child is well enough, or I'm not sure if it just has to do with the schedule in general, with how many days students are attending. All of our students are going to be attending a minimum of 2 days in person if parents are willing to send them. So, alrighty. I'd like to thank you all again for your time. It went a little longer than it normally does, but I appreciate your patience. You've got great questions. If anything else comes up, please feel free to call or email, and the appropriate person will get back to you at their earliest convenience. But it's going to be a great year, and we can't wait to get the little ones back here. Thank you.